Welcome back to Journey to Switchback. My name is Melanie, my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Kristyn, my pronouns are she, her. And today we're going to be talking specifically about the West Coast Trail and why Switchback is set on the West Coast Trail and the 2 trips that Melanie hiked solo on the West Coast Trail as research for the film. So Mel,
Yeah.
why the West Coast Trail?
Well, I wanted a backcountry hike that was no cell service. And I'm sure like folks might be familiar with other hiking films like Wild, where it's set on the PCT, which is a very long backcountry hike through the US. But that trail, you kind of come in and out of backcountry and then like cities. So sometimes you're like actually hitchhiking as part of, you know, that trip. And I just wanted something that was going to be very, very remote. None of the things about it are very accessible for like a quick and easy out or a quick and easy rescue. And that makes it a really ideal space for the kind of story that I wanted to tell. I think the other reason is just that it's a really compelling trail. It's a fantastic piece of coastal geography on BC, the province of BC. And what I found really helpful, I guess, is just having a map. So plotting my plot points of the story onto like actual locations was just super helpful for me as a writing tool. And, you know, in the end, in the film, we'll probably take liberties and shoot in other places because, you know, it's complicated to shoot out there because it is so remote. But just being able to be like, there's a great landmark for this scene, and then there's another landmark, and then I'll put this scene here, and there's another landmark, and I'll put that scene there. And then the reverse of being like, oh, well, they're gonna hit a bridge, so then I'll write a scene on a bridge because there's gonna be a bridge and the trail. And so it was kind of a back and forth of mapping plot to map and then mapping map to plot, and finding this really nice like synergy between those 2 things.
Yeah, and the caveat is that we likely are not able to shoot on the West Coast Trail or set it on the West Coast Trail. So in this case, it really is just kind of an inspiration for that type of trail that exists.
Yes, with the variety of landscape from woods to beach to coastal shelves to mud to bogs to there's a really beautiful space that is like this acidic bog and all the trees are super stunted, and then you walk on a boardwalk, which is really interesting.
There's an owl.
Where is it?
Do you see it? It's in that little tree right there. It's a brown owl. It just flew up and landed. Do you see it, Millie? Okay. It's right in front of you, but
we're getting
a little lower. Do you see it now? Do you see it now?
Oh, yes. Cool.
All right, we have our owl friend who is looking over us as we are getting back to recording. But Mel, I know that you wrote the script before you ever set foot on the West Coast Trail.
Yes.
So what did hiking it teach you about the trail that then you were able to incorporate into the script?
Oh, that's a great question. I think like, you know, when I started using it almost just like as a map, it was very abstract, right? I hadn't been to those places. Mm-hmm. Of course, I looked up footage and photos and vlogs from other travelers and kind of used that to guide my research. But there's just no substitute for actually doing it yourself and being in those places and actually like seeing the scale of things, you know, these landmarks that people are talking about, and then getting there and being like, oh, it says waterfall, but like it's a trickle, you know, and getting like an actual hands-on experience. And I think like part of the goal with hiking it was to scout a little bit, was to like take photos and take pictures and not just have them be disconnected from someone else's experience, but like actually remember being in those places. So that was one of the benefits, and now we have a lot of reference pictures and footage so that as we go out and try to find substitute locations, we know what we're looking for. But also just like actually hiking it solo and being on the trail for 7 days, and that, you know, giving me insight into the character's experience of hiking the trail. And, you know, in the story, the person sets out on a solo hike and then it sort of transitions away from that. But I think having experienced it fully as a solo hike and seeing how relationships develop and friendships develop, that really informed our most recent draft, where we have like a bit more interaction with secondary characters that we meet on the trail. I actually made friends on the trail. The first time I went, I met people the night before I started my hike. We were all camping in the same campground in advance, and we went out to dinner, and then we got on the ferry in the morning, and we, took the boat over to the first ladder, and then we helped each other take pictures of ourselves on the first ladder. And, I got to know them slowly over the course of my hike. And then by the end of the hike, they would get ahead of me and get to camp first, and they would be like, "We saved you a spot," and it was really interesting how quickly you can develop a connection with people. I think just because you're with like-minded people, like anybody who has decided to do a trail like that is already kind of your people. Like, they care about the environment, they care about outdoor experiences, they like being, cut off from technology in the world, they like getting dirty, they like physical activity, and so you're naturally going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and I like how, having read the earlier version of the script and the more recent version of the script, is really seeing how those elements come into the play and how it has shifted with your knowledge of the trail.
Yes. The beauty of hiking the trail twice is that I had two different experiences. So the first time I went over on the ferry to the first ladder. So a little background, you can hike the trail northbound, so starting at one end and hiking north, or you can hike it southbound, so you can hike starting at the other end. Those are the two most common directions. So I hiked northbound, or Nobo, twice. And the first time I went across on the ferry with a full boat with 6 other people, and we all started on the same day, the same time, and then we all also had the same itinerary. So we were all planning to camp at the same campsites for 7 days. Different people do the hike at different paces, so that's not always a guarantee. The second time I hiked it, I was on that ferry by myself. The first day, I hiked the whole first day by myself. So it was a completely different experience. And then I met people and made friends, but it was more like I made friends in each campsite as opposed to friends that were consistent across all my 6 nights on the trail. And so I think that was just really valuable to see the difference of what kinds of people you meet, how your experience could differ as a solo person. I mean, you will not be alone the whole time. You will make friends, but how you make them will kind of vary based on, who else is on the trail.
So after hiking the trail the first time, what is the one thing that you changed to your gear that you brought the second time that was like a game changer? So the first time I went, I did really invest in the expensive gear that you need for truly ultralight backpacking. So I bought a very expensive, very ultralight tent and a few other things. And so the second time I just increased that. So I bought a few more pieces so that I could even further lighten up my pack. And the other thing I learned the first time, I took a bigger camera and I ran out of power very early in the trip, and so then I was just carrying this 5-pound camera for the whole time, but I couldn't film with it. So the second time, even though I still knew I wanted to film, I just brought my phone and put it on the highest setting, and then bought some power packs for my phone, and that was made it lighter, but also made it so I could actually film the whole time that I was on the trip. So very cool.
Yeah.
So I have never hiked the West Coast Trail, but I did actually plan to hike it. I had big plans to hike it the year I turned 30, and I told everyone I was going to do it. And my friend Amanda bought me this guide for my 30th birthday. It has a little inscription that says, "Wishing you lots of bliss and few blisters. Happy trails. Love, Amanda." And then I never hiked the trail. I can't remember why that never ended up panning out, but I read the whole book, which gives you a whole step-by-step and maps and instructions on the trail. But yeah, unfortunately, and I talked about doing it once or twice, and you invited me both times, but scheduling wise and various other health reasons for different years have made it that I have not actually hiked the trail. But my parents both hiked the trail in 1977 with it was quite rough back then, and they did it with like metal frame backpacks. And my mom gave me all the pictures she took, and this news article that I think my grandmother cut out that's dated June 18th, 1977. It says, hiking BC's life-saving trail is definitely not for beginners. So I have this lovely news article and a few photos. So show to camera and then I'll show you out. This is my mother on the beach with her metal frame backpack. And this is my mom hiked it with my dad and my aunt's husband, so I guess that's my uncle, but they got divorced before I really got to know him. And you can see on this one, they've got their packs on the beach as well, and they're kind of like sorting through their packs.
Nice.
So there's tons of pictures that my parents took in the 70s that are of mixed quality, but I like these ones because you can actually see the people in them.
Yeah, I don't have any photos, but I know that my mom has hiked the trail as well. I don't know what year it was, but I remember her telling me, like, you know, the backpacks, the gear was completely different. They had like canned food, you know, and a can opener, like it was just a different time.
Yeah, much heavier.
And speaking of like what changed my second trip was like getting dialed in more on food and like what to bring and how much to bring, because the first time I didn't bring enough, and the second time I actually made a lot of my own meals to dehydrate. And so yeah, you learn a lot when you hike it, what not to do, and you know, how to make your hike a more enjoyable hike, for sure. Another thing I think is interesting about like choosing the West Coast Trail is that, you know, if you're familiar with Vancouver Island, there are many trails on that coastal side of the island. So there's the North Coast, the West Coast Trail, and the Juan de Fuca Trail, and lots of people have done all of them. Some people sort of create their own through hike and like connect them all. And
well, how long does that take?
Well, I think it depends, because even the West Coast Trail, it kind of depends on how fast you want to do it. That's actually a great little anecdote, because the first time I hiked it, there was a pair of trail runners who were running the entire West Coast Trail in one day. So they had no packs because they didn't need stuff for overnight and to stay. They just had, you know, water bladders and probably some snacks or whatever. And so we saw them like running along the beach when we had, you know, made camp for the day. And it was kind of cool to realize that like people come to that trail and do it for different reasons. They have different experiences. Some people are like, I only have 5 days, so I gotta push harder. And some people go every single year and have gone for 20 years in a row and make it like a real vacation and take their time. I think you have 14 days to hike it from your permit. So some people will actually get their permit and hike it in like a yo-yo. So they'll go to the end and then turn around and come back, because you're allowed to. You're allowed to be on the trail for the length of your permit. So it just really depends on the person, how much time they want to spend.
Well, thanks for walking us through the West Coast Trail, Melanie, and bringing it to life on the page, and then looking forward to taking that inspiration and bringing it to the big screen.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I've taken a year off, but I'm looking forward to doing the hike again. Ooh. I feel like I want to go back now that I've had a little break from it, because I did my hikes 2 years in a row. And so yeah, it'll be nice to do it after we film the movie too, and kind of have like a new perspective on the trail from post-production.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.